Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Accepted Authority. I'm Andy Marmont.
And I'm Greg Roworth.
And as always, it's a discussion that we have about how to overcome getting premium quality clients in a consulting environment. And this week, I've got a cracking topic for you. It's all about how you can attract clients by being a visible leader. We want to talk about personal branding. We want to talk about how you can really elevate your presence, you enhance your reputation, and also it flows on to other things like attracting good people. So we're going to focus on that great positioning from your own, from your personal brand. Now, you're a great man to talk to, Greg, because you have created a really strong personal brand, and it's all linked to you being that authority in your space. So why don't we start off with, if you wanted to talk about your journey in position, what you've learned, maybe some mistakes as well, about, first of all, why is it important to be positioned or to build your own reputation, and how have you done that yourself? What have you learned?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. And I think this is a really important topic because, I often see consultants' websites, that have their business name. They talk about what they do as a firm, services the firm provides, but I don't see any reference to who is involved in that business, who's the leader in that business. And to me, that just, it screams of, there's no authority there. There's nothing to offer. And typically those websites are pretty generic, so there's no real differentiation between any other of their competitors. And so in my experience, what really helps a firm stand out from the crowd is when who's prepared to stand up and be the authority and have that authority positioning in the market. And it just is so obvious that the leading consultants are the people that have positioned themselves as an authority. People with books, for example, like Jim Collins' Good to Great fame, is an obvious standout. But there are many others that we could quote that have books that position them as the authority. And an amazing consultancy practice on that level of authority. Often I think the fear that people have is don't want to stand out as the authority because I think everyone wants them to be the one that works with them. And this was something that I experienced too in growing my previous businesses, where growing the business, I thought that if I stood out, that everyone would want me to be the one that went in to do the work for them. But what I discovered is that if I created my IP so that I could train other people to do what I could then elevate the authority of my people based on the fact that I didn't need to be the one that did the work. I was the one who created the IP. I created the process. I was the authority in that space, but I didn't need to be the one to go into every client to do the work because my authority also extended to being able to position the process or the system as the valuable part of how we work with clients. So I think that's something that's really important. And I know there's a stream of thought, saying thought, there's a leader concept that thought leader, you practice is yourself and you can't really delegate other people to go in and do the work because you're the thought leader, you're the one who everyone wants. But I've disproved that in practice. When you can take your thought leader and then distill them down into systems that other people can utilize, then you remove that barrier. So I think that's the critical, well, on one hand, mistake that people make in thinking, well, they don't want to stand out as the authority because they don't want to be under demand from everybody. But then the second mistake is actually not distilling your IP or your thought leadership process or a system that can be replicated, and you're training other people to do it. So being able to do those two things, stand out as the authority, not make yourself the only person who has to do the work, but making sure that in that education process, you're educating people around a system that works rather than you being the only one who's got all the good ideas in your head. Then the firm becomes the authority in the market, and you can train the people, other consultants, to work for you to deliver the great results that you could do.
It's so timely you say that, Greg, because I had a meeting with an accountant. He came from Big Four, and now he's a partner at a firm that has a number of different financial professionals. And he talked to me about key man risk. So when he's advising clients about when they're selling their business, he talked about, well, one of the aspects is if all the IP, all the sales, all the consultants, all the client, they're all tied up with one person, that's a massive risk. If he or she goes, then there's that risk. But what you're saying there is exactly true. If you're, as a leader, you develop solutions and systems and products that anyone in the consulting firm can pick up, but you've created it, then that makes you a lot stronger, not just as a business, but it's less reliant on you to have to keep coming up with all the ideas. And so I think that's a very it's a great point you raise about that.
Thank you. And it's a great relevancy with that risk. And I think that's very true, that eliminating or lessening that degree of risk when you're able to systemize what you do, systemize your IP so that others can do it. And you're not the only one. In fact, in my previous firm before I sold it, I'd virtually made myself redundant in that firm. I didn't have to go and work with any clients. I didn't even have to do the selling, although that's the area that I was involved in most. But really, I was able to focus my time and attention on creating thought leadership content, and take the business in a direction more strategically than being the one that had to do all the work or make all the sales. So having distilled my IP down and systemized it all, I was able to train other consultants to do it better than I could in some cases, and not have to be the one that everyone called on to say, well, I need you. No, you need my team of people. Because Joe here is actually better at this aspect than I am. He's the one who needs to solve this problem. So
I reckon that's an episode in itself, Greg. I'm sure there's a lot of people, if you're watching or you're listening, that how have you built up and sold 3 businesses by establishing exactly that sort of thought leadership system. So I'd love to come back to that. Personally, I've gone through a period of the last sort of 3 months where after having sort of 4 years of, there's a few products and services, but it was all very licorice all sorts. It was all very customized. It's like someone comes in and says, oh, I'd like this. I say, okay, I'll build you a car, but it's a bit like, the Homer Simpson car that he made back in the day, and it had all these different pieces on top, and there you go. And they think, oh, well, this is not what I want. This is I can't even drive it properly. So now we're in the very early stages of that, where we've got all this. I've got all the IP that I was thinking about. What works? How do we? What's the best way to get results? What's the stuff that we're doing that's working for us? Creating a initial 4-week program, expert position pathway, but then a 12-week program to really focus on getting 2 key outcomes. And what I've found is, after taking it's like a pilot, clients come through and taking my team through it, getting her feedback and sort of suggesting that, well, it's actually, Scylla can already see that it can be replicated. It's just about once you learn it, you can just simply plug it in and you're going to get a similar sense of results because you're taking them on the same process. You don't have to think about, well, what are we doing in this meeting? So I think, and if we think back to consulting, how a lot of it is, it's very much, as we know, it's project based. We'll do a piece of work for you. But what if you created a solution that you could replicate and give it to any of your team to say, well, this is how we have an entry point, and then this is how we can engage from there. I think it's very smart that you're going down that path.
Yeah, well, I think that's critical to how to grow a firm and how to differentiate your firm as well. And, in a lot of cases, consultancy work is very formulaic. There are processes that people learn, like, lean manufacturing or lean systems. Everyone gets taught, here's the process to do lean consulting. So, if we set ourselves up as, specialists in lean, then, we're really just the same as any other specialist in lean. Whatever type of brand we'd like to put on our consulting focus.
Yes.
So, we then get commoditized. So it's about, how do we deliver lean in a different way or a more specific way to a particular segment of the market that we can specialize in. So becoming market specialists rather than service specialists is another way to create a niche positioning or differentiation from other consultants that are really, just as qualified, just as capable as we are. But, if we focus on a specific area, that we can then create our expertise or become the accepted authority in that specific market segment, even delivering the same sort of service as any other consultant would do, but they're generic across the board. Any client's a good client.
Yes.
And then we again have an opportunity to stand out. And again, being a leader in that positioning of our firm into a specific market niche elevates our ability to not only have a greater appeal is the word I'm looking for, greater relevance to that specific segment of the market, but also an ability to charge more for what we do. We're specialists rather than general, and everyone knows specialists get paid more.
Yes.
So, that's where the level of leadership in your own firm, just thinking about positioning, where you can apply your skills to the most effect and who you do that work for. Again, this is a topic on its own of how to focus on a specific market segment that you're going to be great for, rather than it being a generalist across the board.
Yep, definitely. That's, again, another great topic that we should probably, I think, would cover in future episodes. So just to sort of wrap that up, Greg, so what we're talking about there is if you are to help attract more premium clients and also great team members, as a leader, you've got to think about creating some IP and actually using that as the vehicle, the company, the vehicle, and your role is really to amplify and talk about how that works with your team, but also in the public domain on things like LinkedIn, or maybe when you're doing speaking. Again, it's about talking about how those concepts and getting people engaged, rather than thinking about it all has to be about you and
absolutely. Really described it very well, and it really gives you an ability to talk about the system, the process, the solution, rather than making it all about you. And and your ability to talk about the solution gives you an ability to not be salesy at all in the way you come across in a market or in any of your marketing activities.
Yeah.
You know, talking solutions, talking things that are relevant to your clients rather than making it all about you is much more appealing and much easier to listen to. And you're not getting shut down so easily as a lot of people do.
That's right. It's not about all the awards that you won and how great your office is, but it's about, can you bridge the gap and be that solution provider? So thanks again, Greg, and thanks everyone for watching. We really appreciate it for the Accepted Authority here today. Now, Greg, where can we find you?
Again, I'm on LinkedIn. Just search for Greg Roworth and you'll find me easily enough. And or if you want to go directly to my website and get some information that might solve a problem for you, there's plenty available at businessflightpath.com.
Awesome.
What about you, Andrew?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Andy Marmont, or jump on our website. It's concurve.com.au. So thanks everyone again. We'll see you next time on the Accepted Authority.
See you all.